Welcome to Vibrant Numerals, where we explore the vibrations of the world around us and try and apply it to our everyday life using numerology, astrology, and more. I'm Elizabeth, and this video is a long time coming. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share, and hit the notification bell. So in this video, I've been working on this video. I wanted to put out a video about the vibrations around Hurricane Katrina at the anniversary of Hurricane Katrina at the end of August. I'm now recording this in mid-September 2025, and it's because there was so much more information that was coming from this topic that felt like it needed to be shared. And so I first want to make sure that everybody is recognizing that when there is any kind of natural disaster, we have to first put people first. We have to put people first and make sure that people are taken care of. And we need to make sure that their stories are told. And I think that's the biggest thing that is coming from Hurricane Katrina, is that the wrong stories were being told for so long. There's two docu-series that have come out recently. One on Hulu Disney Plus that is directed by Ryan Coogler and his team, and one that is on Netflix that is directed by Spike Lee. Both of these have done an amazing job of making sure that the untold stories are finally being heard. And it was watching these and trying to prepare for a tribute video that so many more understandings of what was happening at this time and in this space and what we can continue to see happening came out for me, and I wanted to make sure to share. So first and foremost, we're going to put people first. So as we're looking at these vibrations, we need to remember that the stories, the perspectives, and the vibrations of those that were at this time in that space and that were most highly impacted by this event need to be priority and need to be put at the forefront. I'm going to focus on speaking about the vibrations, but I want that to be said, that the people and their stories are what's most important. And so what I was seeing when I was reviewing Hurricane Katrina is that there were several layers of vibration that were happening that were impacting this space at that time. And it is really important to recognize that there essentially were three storms happening at the same time. That's why I said that, or I labeled this title as Weathering the Triple Storm, because there was really three different storms that were happening. And we need to recognize what the impact and the contribution of each of these storms were. We are encountering these storms all the time, but we usually see them separate. We usually do not see them all at one time being expressed, even though the vibrations are always there. And that's what makes Hurricane Katrina an example of this triple storm. So when we have, oh, I didn't want to do that. So the first type of storm we're going to look at, I like to call it a vibrational storm. And the vibrational storm comes from these vibrations that are outside of the earth plane. So these would be what the astrology is saying. What These are just like the vibes from the universe. So what we have happening out in space, um, that's outside of our control, this would be the universal energies. It becomes a storm when things are aligned in a way where it's creating a huge influx of vibrations that can be extremely disruptive. And so this vibrational storm would be seen, if we think about it in three different ways. This vibrational storm is going to be it's going to contain neutrality. So it's very neutral, because vibration in its purest form is neutral. And when you're neutral, you contain all perspectives. And also, when you're neutral, so you're in the middle, you're including all of these perspectives, like all of the possibilities are being included in that vibration. Then you also have very low polarization. So you're not really creating a space where um, there's vibrations that are fighting against each other, because they're all included. They're all included in this neutral space. It's neutral because all of those differences are included in that same vibrational space. But when you can be neutral but still have these vibrations that can cause chaos and havoc. The thing that it is, though, is that those changes, the chaos, can be perceived as good and as bad. So the vibrational storm really carries all of that, carries it, the opportunities and also the tragedies. Um, and then we have an earth storm. And so an earth storm is actually the weather, but any of the earth activities as well. And so this is where we would see the earth's vibrations, because we have the moving parts of earth's vibrations all the time. We see it on a good day and on a bad day weather wise. When we have these storms, or what we categorize or consider storms, it's when these two separate things, usually a cold front and a warm front, are running into each other. They're colliding, they're mixing in a strange way, and then that's creating these weathers that can create natural disasters. So this is an earth storm, where we see in the weather and in the earth activities. Now, Hurricane Katrina, it's called Hurricane Katrina, and all the events that are around it are called Hurricane Katrina, where it's essentially blaming everything that has happened on this earth storm alone, on the hurricane that was created. The earth storm, a lot of the times, really all of the time, is created from these vibrational storms coming from the universe and hitting the earth, and then it's the earth's reaction to it. Now, these earth storms, they still are neutral. They still have all of that pure vibration in it. Um, but now you're getting a different kind of mix of perspectives where some people see these earth storms. So, like an earth chaser or like a storm chaser might see this as amazing, as such a cool thing. Um, while people that are impacted by these natural disasters, it's a horrible thing and it can be tragic. And we have seen this in the story of Hurricane Katrina. We also have, at this level of an earth storm, we also have some polarization. So we'll just call this mid level polarization. So there is some separation of sides. Um, because like we do have like a warm front and a cold front that are coming together that are creating this storm surge. We do have these different mixes of vibrations that are creating this storm. And so it has mid level polarization. So the storm is really coming from more of these mixing up perspectives and the polarization of those vibrations. I'm going to move this up a little bit. And then the third kind of storm is, let me find a good color here. Here we go. Is what I call a man made storm. These are what we experience every single day. Whether it's in our individual lives, in the relationships we have with people, but also all the way out for like what the governmental decisions are, the legislation is. This is also the relationship between like countries would be considered a man-made storm. And so a man-made storm is now these are very much about human actions and behaviors. Also in this space is where the emotions come in, because only for human beings are there emotions in this space. And so this man-made storm is going to be it's not neutral at all. Essentially, like it's very much polarized. So if we start on this end, this is very polarized. There's when you have a man-made storm, it is usually because there's sides set against each other. It's a split between perspectives, and it's usually few perspectives. So it's a split between few perspectives. So this is where not all the perspectives, not all the sides of the story are included. And this is also where now we have it's like not neutral at all. So it's like not neutral. Whatever, and it's basically it's like all positive for some, all negative for others. There's no real neutrality there. And so we have these three kinds of storms. And where we have the earth that is impacted by this vibrational storm, then the earth storm can impact the and add to the vibrations of this man-made storm. But this man-made storm, we see them all the time, but they become very big when these different sides and different perspectives start clashing with each other. Also, the only way to tame a man-made storm is to go backwards in the levels of polarization, and in the number of perspectives that are included. So our perspectives are our story. It's our story of how we are interpreting the vibrations that are around us, how we are interacting with the vibrations around us, whether it's other people, the earth itself, or just vibrations itself. It's all coming from our perspective. And these man made storms come when these perspectives are colliding and they're extremely polarized. And this is what we see in Hurricane Katrina, where it's very recent. It like Hurricane Katrina happened in 2005, and we are seeing just now in 2025 at the 20-year anniversary where we're finally getting to hear people's personal perspectives, their personal stories of what they experienced. The stories that have been told have only they've been very polarized, where it's only been told from one perspective and in one way. This is a man-made storm. And so what we saw with Hurricane Katrina is we saw that there was this vibrational storm. This vibrational storm was caused by Neptune, who rules the oceans, and by the moon, who rules the movement of water, including the oceans. So the alignment of these planets in our astrology was putting out these vibrations, this message that the waters and the emotions that are associated with it, there's movement of water. So this is the story. And it includes all the perspectives because it's very neutral. It's saying this is the placement of these planets. This is the message that is being told, that there is a message of the movement of big water movement, and so that it's very neutral. When this vibration came in and hit the earth, now the earth is experiencing, and the way to actually integrate and release this energy became a hurricane. And so that is that natural disaster, that weather event that we saw. Now you can tell that these are very neutral because where there's neutral vibrations and a lot of perspective, there's more truth. And so it is true, we can see the placement of Neptune, we could see the placement of Moon, and how that was impacting the vibrations that were coming into the Earth's space. We have a record of the weather of how Hurricane Katrina went from a tropical storm and how it formed, and then how it moved, where it all of a sudden moved and took over the whole Gulf. And we can document that. That is the truth. That includes that mix of perspectives and all the perspectives, and it's very neutral because it just is. When we get to these man-made storms, so what I already knew, but these docu-series that I watched and articles that I watched and books that I read on Hurricane Katrina, it became very evident that not all the stories were being told, not all the perspectives were being included. And that is what created this man-made storm. That as these vibrational energies, this vibrational storm came into the Earth space, and Earth produced this Earth storm in the form of Hurricane Katrina, that those were survivable. And in actuality, when you start getting all of the truth, those were survived. The biggest destruction and the biggest tragedies came from this man made storm. This man made storm came from one sided stories, and it came from this polarization that already existed in that space in New Orleans, in the United States, in the form of discrimination. Whether it was discrimination by race or by class, because it was both Black people that lived in New Orleans, but also it was the poor people that were in the spaces and were not protected that created this man made storm. These are also the stories that we did not get to hear, that we did not know were happening. And that took this man made storm as far from neutral as it could have been. And so now we have the biggest tragedies, the biggest loss of life is coming from these man-made storms. It's coming from people making decisions from a very polarized place, where they're only taking in consideration their perspectives of those that they value. And this is where we get the decision making of not completing the levees as promised after Hurricane Betsy. This is where we get the polarization and the problems of not evacuating the whole city in time, not seeing the value in the people. And this is also where we get the polarization and the one-sided story of what was actually being told when this tragedy was unfolding, where you were seeing the discrimination on full display, where people were not being helped, they were being further harmed. And this is why it took so long for people to be able to get the help they needed. And in actuality, this man-made storm created so much chaos and so much tragedy that we still have not recovered as a country. New Orleans absolutely has not recovered as a city, not fully. And the people impacted and the groups of people impacted that were discriminated against have not recovered. This has added to the wounds. This has added to the trauma. Now, in coming from a better place of like, how now do we come now from a place of healing? And the only way that these can be healed is if we now move backwards through these vibrational storms and figure out how to take responsibility and accountability, and allow more of the perspectives to be heard, the stories to be told, and so we can get back to a neutral vibration. So accountability and responsibility need to be taken at this man level, this human level. So then we can talk about just the truth of this earth storm. Because in actuality, we've had many storms since this, but nothing that has looked like this. Nothing that has had this triple storm effect, where we have had earth storms that really have been tragic and they've been earth focused. But here, this man-made storm is what really created the tragedy. So we have to take responsibility there first, so then we can understand the truth of the earth storm, and we can understand the truth of the vibrational storm. So we have to, for healing, we have to move backwards. And I really believe that with these documentaries and these docuseries that have come out, we're beginning to do that. We're beginning to get the perspectives and the stories of those that were silenced, those that were devalued, and those that were seen as not part of the truth. And as we do that, now we can get closer to being able to have all perspectives included and valued so we can get to a place of healing. And I think that's where I'll leave it for now. I'm sure we'll have this discussion much more. There's much more to be told, there's much more to be said. But when we start looking at the storms that we encounter, understand that there's these three different storms, and we only have control or some sense of control in one of them, this man-made storm. We need to make sure we're including perspectives and that we are understanding how our own implicit biases could be impacting and creating a greater storm for others. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Hopefully this was an enlightening video. Leave in the comments below any of your questions, any of the comments that you would like to include. And please feel free to include your stories. Tell me your stories. Include your stories here. This is an open forum for you to include your stories so that you can be heard, because that is our first point of beginning to heal. So thank you. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you can get more of my videos, and I will see you soon. Thank you. Bye.